Hello everyone, in this lecture we will discuss the mathematical formulation for graph neural networks, that is in short we call graph neural networks as GNN, and what we will discuss in that is forward propagation rule in case of graph neural networks. By saying forward propagation means how the information from the input side of this neural network will flow to the output side of the neural network. Please recall that in our earlier lectures we have said that these nodes will have its own embeddings in the form of feature space, and the feature space is a one-dimensional feature vector for each of these individual nodes, and the dimension of that can be m cross 1, where we have this feature vectors for this particular node and we are representing that by xa. So by forward propagation means how we will propagate the information of these nodes, which are xa, xc and all these feature vectors present at the input node, to the output node having the feature vector za, which in our case is like this, and this vector will be of size again, let us say n cross 1. So it will also be a n cross 1 feature vector, but there is a catch over here, and the catch is that the dimension of n is much less than the dimension of m. So what we are doing is we are actually performing embedding using this particular computational graph as neural network, and this embedding is performed using forward propagation that we will discuss in our next slides, and we will see how this forward propagation is actually making sense in case of graphical neural networks. It's not an abstract idea, it is just whatever concepts we have discussed in our earlier lecture are formulated using simple mathematical equations to perform forward propagation. So let's discuss the forward propagation in detail now. So now let us discuss the forward propagation in case of graph neural networks. So here you can see we have this graph structure, and corresponding to this node A we have its computational graph, which is given over here. So you can see that this is the computational graph corresponding to this node A. So how to make these computational graphs are discussed in our earlier lecture. So you can visit them in order to understand how this computational graph is drawn. So corresponding to this node A, we have how many neighbors? We have 3 neighbors, right? D, C and B. So this is basically taking care of that. And then neighbors of the neighbors, and the neighbors of the neighbors is that the neighbors of, what are the neighbors of B, what are the neighbors of C, and what are the neighbors of D. So all neighbors of the neighbors are given over here. So with 2 hops, that is with k equal to 1 and small k equal to 0, with 2 hops we have covered this particular graph structure. This k is basically the variable which indicates that at which layer we are in particular computational graph structure. So this k basically indicates the position in the computational graph. So for k equal to 1 we are here at the final location, final position of this computational graph, and for k equal to 0 we are at the initial position of this computational graph for this particular graph structure. And this k, this small k, can run from 0, 1 up to capital K, and this capital K can be anything like 3, 4 or 6 or something like that, depending upon the complexity of this graph structure. And we know why we are using these computational graphs, that is to compress the feature vectors which are present at this position. Let us say you have the feature vectors for this node A as m cross 1, to compress these feature vectors so that we can embed it into a lower dimension space for this node A, and the dimension of this feature vector at this position will be, let us say, D cross 1. So D is less than compared to M. So this embedding of a higher dimensional feature vector into a lower dimensional feature vector is the main purpose of using this computational graph. So how to perform this embedding is important. So in order to perform this embedding, we have to implement the forward propagation path in this computational graph structure. So in order to perform this forward propagation in this computational graph, you have to follow these 3 steps. The first step is that you initialize the activation units to be the feature vectors. So what this statement is saying is that the activation at layer small k equal to 0. So this 0 is basically k equal to 0. So what it is saying is the activation at the 0th layer will be the feature vectors itself. So if we have feature vectors for xa, which is this, and the dimensions of it is m cross 1, let us say, and for C again we have another set of feature vectors. So like this we have these feature vectors for all these nodes. So what we are saying in this equation is that the activation unit at the 0th level, that is H subscript V superscript 0, is the feature vectors itself. So that is what is written in this equation. What is the second equation? Second equation is a recursive equation, as you note, in terms of K. So K basically denotes the current layer at which we are executing the activation unit. So at kth unit we are actually calculating the activation unit, which is basically a function of previous activation unit, and you can see here also it's a previous activation unit. But there are two parts to it, this equation. First is this one and the second one is this one. So we will discuss each of these parts in detail, and this is basically the nonlinear activation that is performed on these two parts. So this is simple. So the first part which we are having here is basically averaging the neighbors. So as you can see we have a summation sign here. So this performs averaging of the neighbors. So the implementation of the, so what last time what we were discussing about the averaging in order to implement these graph structures, so that averaging is done through this particular symbol. So what it is averaging is, it is averaging all the neighbors of node V, which we are considering here for activation. So that neighbors which are surrounding the neighborhood of node V are denoted as U. So for example, here if you consider this node A, then node A has how many neighbors? Node A has B, C and D. So U is basically B, C and D. So that is what we are saying here. So this is basically a set which we are calling as NV, where NV is specifically N of A. So neighborhood of A is B, C and D. So what we are doing here in this equation is, we are actually averaging first by using this summation operator and normalizing the activations of these neighborhoods with the value of NV. So the NV value here will be 3 in case of node A at layer 1. So we are focusing at this layer K equal to 1. That's why the neighborhood information NV will be 3. But this neighborhood information will change if we move to K equal to 0 here. So we have to adjust these equations accordingly. But currently I am giving you example for K equal to 1 and considering node A. If you consider different nodes, all these values of NV and U will change accordingly. So now what we are doing is, we are actually performing averaging operation here by summing the activation units, that is the neighborhood activation units, and dividing it by the total number of neighbors, which is this one. So this is the explanation of this first part. And then we are actually using WKs. These WKs are actually connecting the activation units HU, which is over here, with different weights, and these weights are trainable. They are trainable weights and they are actually part of the neural network. So for example, as you know that this box is the neural network, so I'll just expand it. So what these interconnections are basically the weights. They are the weights which connects the nodes B, C and D to node A, and these weights, these WKs, are basically the weights that are used in the neural network and are trainable. The second part of this equation which we are denoting over here is the term which takes care of the bias. So BK here are the bias terms which are also trainable, is multiplied with the node under consideration, which is V, and in our case which is A. So this is the generalized V, and V can be any node of the graph. So currently since we are discussing about node A and for K equal to 1, so that's why V is A here. So actually if you see what exactly this is doing is, it is creating a self loop here of value BK, and then it is giving you the value HVK. So these biases, this is BK, are basically the self loop activation for a node A into consideration, and then whatever result that we obtain here at the output will be passed through the non-linearity unit, and then the resultant will be hv of k. So this same thing, that is this self loop which is present over here, will also be done at this layer also, which is k equal to 0. So here also we will have self loops, and weight matrices will be here for k equal to 0, and these are b's. So all these b's and weights will be trainable. So once we are at the final position, that is when we are at final activation unit, that is at capital K, because we are considering k ranging from 1 to k minus 1. For k equal to 0, we have already used it as a activation units are used as a feature vector itself. But for k1 to k minus 1, we will be using this equation. And for the last layer, what we will have is the embedded vector z of superscript a, which is given as hv of capital K. So this is the last equation for implementing in the forward propagation rule. So when the last equation is implemented, then we will get this embedded space, that is z subscript superscript a. So this is basically the implementation of forward propagation in case of graph neural networks. So the next thing that we will discuss is the matrix notation, that is implementation of this same equation that we have discussed over here in the form of matrices. So this implementation which we will be discussing now lies in the area of spectral analysis, and the research paper which has discussed this, the link for that I will give in the description section. So let's discuss the matrix notation. So for any graph G, as we have discussed earlier also, is represented in this form, where V is the vertex or node and E is the edge that connects the two nodes together. And we have also discussed this, that the input feature vector will be of size n cross m, where n is the number of nodes in the graph and m is the feature vectors. And the adjacency matrix will also be, we have also discussed, is of size n cross n, and it is represented by A. So a generalized neural network in terms of computational graph will be represented in this form, where H is the activation unit at the layer L plus 1, which is equal to the transformation, a nonlinear transformation represented by F, which is a function of HL and A. So HL is basically the activation at layer L and A is the adjacency matrix. So this nonlinear transformation F will be a function of H and A. So to start with, layer 0, which is also k equal to 0, as we have discussed earlier also, so that is equal to the feature vector itself. So what we are saying here is that at the initial start, when we will be feeding the input to this computational graph, it will be the feature vectors, as we have discussed this so many times. And the last layer, the activation corresponding to that last layer will be the Z matrix itself. So Z is basically the embedding node that we are discussing over here. As you can see, in the last layer we have A coming as the output. So this is not A, this is basically the ZA. So this is the feature vector corresponding to the output, which is present at the last layer. So that is what is represented over here. So L is basically the number of layers, and the last layer will have the output as Z. Now a simple layer wise propagation rule is represented in this form. So the function f that we were discussing here is basically represented in terms of sigma times this combination of A and H. So as you can see, sigma here is the nonlinear activation unit. So typically it is ReLU. And what is A? A is the adjacency matrix, H is the activation at the L layer, and W is the weight matrix that we have already discussed in our earlier slides also, which is the weight that we will be tuning in case of neural networks embedded in the computational graph. So there is one important thing over here. As you can see that the size of the adjacency matrix is n cross n. The size of the activation unit is n cross m. So n cross m, what I am saying is for L equal to 0, Once you move inside the layers, this dimension will keep on changing, this h dimension. But for starting purpose, when you are feeding the input to the computational graph, the size of the dimension of h is n cross m, where m is the feature vectors. M is the feature vectors of the node. So what I am saying is these feature vectors, like for this node A, we will have feature vector, and the dimension of this feature vector is m cross 1. So this is what I am saying over here. That is, m is the dimension of the feature vector for a particular node n. So the dimension of the weight matrix will be m cross p. And please note that the dimension of this weight matrix will also change as you move from layer to layer. But for the first layer, we are considering this. So you can see that the effective dimension of this complete matrix multiplication will be n cross p. So what is happening now? The important thing is, earlier the dimension of the feature matrix was n cross m, and now it has changed to n cross p. And if you keep p very less than n, then we will be obtaining the dimensionality reduction. So what you are doing is, from feature vectors of length m, you are moving to the feature vectors of length p. So there will be the reduction in the dimension of the feature vectors as you move from layer L equal to 0 to L equal to 1. So once you move from layer L equal to 1 to L equal to 2, you can change these weight matrices. So basically this weight matrix is helping in creating the reduction in the dimension, which in turn is basically what we call as node embeddings. So that is one of the important things that I wanted to discuss. Another thing is, there is one limitation here for using this particular equation. And the limitation is that there is no self loops in the adjacency matrix. So we have to include these self loops, and that can be done by adding the identity matrix. So what we will do is, we will add identity matrix with the adjacency matrix to include self loops. So why we want to first of all include self loops here? So as you can see in our earlier slides, this bk over here is basically it's like a self loop. It's basically implementing something like a self loop. As you can see, there is a self loop here. So we have to include this functionality which is over here, that is this self loop functionality. In order to do that, what we are doing is, we are adding the identity matrix so that the functionality which is present in B, that is the self loop functionality which is present in B, will be incorporated here. But please note that here it's not trainable, because this identity matrix has all the fixed elements of value 1, so it will not be trainable. So what is trainable here is only the weight matrix, which is given over here. So this is the only matrix which is trainable. And another important thing is that A is not normalized. That is, so A is not normalized, which results in change of feature vectors. So your feature vectors will change because the values of the elements which are present in A are not normalized. And the reason and because of the change in feature vector, it might happen that the explosion of gradients will happen, and the optimizer will be sensitive to feature scaling. So due to these two reasons, what we will do is, we will normalize the adjacency matrix. And to normalize the adjacency matrix, we will make use of degree matrix. And what we will do is, we will divide the adjacency matrix with the degree matrix, and it is given over here. So it's basically, we are doing multiplication of D inverse with A. So it's dividing the adjacency matrix with the degree matrix. So all the nodes of the adjacency matrix will be normalized. So effectively what D inverse A is doing is, it is correspondingly the operation D inverse A is basically taking average of the neighboring node features. So let me explain you that. So we all know that adjacency matrix has all the neighborhood information of a particular node A. So let us say you have B and C as the two neighbors of A. Then what will happen is, the adjacency matrix, though the graph will be big, but these nodes are not the neighbors of node A, but C and B are the neighbors of node A. So to simplify this, what will happen is, we have A, B, C till the number of nodes that we have in graph, and in the column side also we will have the same thing. So for A, what will happen? For A, we will have index value will be 0 here. For this it will be 1, and for C also it will be 1. And how about the degree matrix? For the degree matrix, will also have A, B, C till the nodes which are present in the graph, A, B, C till the number of nodes which are present in the graph. So the degree matrix over here will be 2. So you can see that if you sum this value, it's also equal to 2, and the total sum is also equal to 2. When you divide A with D inverse, means you are dividing with the reciprocal of this matrix, and since it's a diagonal matrix, what happens is all the elements of the diagonal matrix, if they are, let us say, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then what will happen in the case of D inverse? The matrix will be 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 by 4, 1 by 5, 1 by 6. So all the elements in the diagonal will become reciprocal in case of D inverse. So when you multiply D inverse A, that means you are multiplying with the value of 1 by 2 for the first column. So this means it will be 1 by 2, and this also will be 1 by 2. So what does it mean? It means that there is a averaging of the nodes. So you are creating a normalized A by dividing it with total number of nodes which are acting as the neighbors for a particular node into consideration. For this example, if it is A, then the values of the neighborhood nodes are 2. So each of these elements will be normalized. So that's why what we are saying over here is that it's taking the average of the neighborhood node features. In paper, what they are doing is they are using symmetric normalization. Basically what they are doing is they are pre and post multiplying the matrix A with 1 upon square root of D. So this is pre multiplication and this is post multiplication with the 1 by square root of D. So once we incorporate this, what we get is this expression. So this is similar expression, except we are now replacing D with this. D into A is as this, and also note that here it is A hat and it's not A, and A hat is equal to A plus I, and this identity matrix is added to A in order to include the self loop, and D is the degree matrix of A hat. So now we will discuss the vector representation of the matrix implementation that we have represented here. So this is the same equation that we started with in our earlier slides. So what I wanted to show you is how we can reduce it to the this expression to the expression that we have discussed here. So I'll just show you. So what my main aim is to show that this equation that we discussed here, so this equation is not visible now, but you know what I am saying. Like, I just wanted to show you that this forward propagation rule that we have discussed over here is equivalent to the forward propagation rule that we have discussed here, this one. And you know that we started it with from this expression. So I just wanted to show that both the equations that I have just shown you before and this one are equivalent. So to do that, I just wanted to clarify that this expression which is given over here is basically performing the aggregation operation, and the whole expression which is over here is the transformation, and transformation by the nonlinear operation which is given over here, which is the ReLU operation in our case. So to emphasize on this point that how this is acting as an aggregation, let's expand this. So you can see this is the expansion, this is the further detailing of this particular part of the equation. And you know that when we form the computational graph, at that time the H0, the very first layer of the computational graph, is the vector itself, that is the feature vectors itself of the input, and we are representing it by X, and this I represents the rows of the adjacency matrix. So when we expand this expression, what we get is AI of X, and this AI of X is basically, let's discuss this in detail. So basically A is the adjacency matrix where N is the number of rows which are equivalent to the nodes of the graph, and this one is also capital N. And what happens is that in each of the rows, as we have discussed so many times earlier also, in each of these rows, this one or this one, whatever information we are storing in these columns are basically representing the neighborhood information for this particular node. So let us say if I am focusing on this first row of this adjacency matrix, then all the elements of this row will tell that how many nodes are neighbor of this node 1 or not. So for example, if this is present, this is not present, this is present, this is not present, and this is present, then these three nodes will be the neighborhood nodes of this node 1. Others will not be there. So basically adjacency matrix is telling that for each row which is acting as a node of a particular graph, how many nodes are adjacent to that node, and the information about this adjacency is stored in the element of this row. And similarly, we have this feature vector matrix where n is the number of rows which is equivalent to the nodes of the graph, and this is the feature vector. As we have already discussed that feature vector is basically of size 1 cross m, and each row represents a separate feature vector for each of the nodes in the graph. So when you expand this expression, because we are running it from j equal to 1 to n, so we are having aij x of j, and then when we expand this expression we get something like this. So what is this? This is basically what you are doing here. You are taking a11 first. A11 first means this information you are taking first, and then you are multiplying this information with the feature vector of the first row of the feature matrix X, so this one. So we will take this and we will multiply it with a11. So this feature matrix is m cross 1. Then a12, which is this one, and you multiply this with this feature matrix. So this will be the second feature matrix, and you go on like this. And note that this a11 and a12 are the values which are present in this adjacency matrix, and they are acting as the weights, and these weights are represented in the form of this a11 and a12. So what effectively you are doing is you are weighting the feature vectors, because this a11 and a12 are acting as a weight. So what you are doing effectively is a w11 feature vector 1 plus w2 feature vector 2. So you are weighting the feature vectors by using this aggregation operation. So this is basically aggregation. That's what we have written over here. So it's an aggregation of the feature vectors. So what you are doing, you are actually aggregating the neighborhood information in terms of the weighted average of the feature vectors which these nodes are representing. And we have also shown that another expression for this is sigma d inverse AIX, and we have told the reason for doing that, that is it's a normalization factor which we are doing on this AI, because AI are having the weights, and these weights can vary from any range. So basically it may affect the scaling of this feature vector X. So in order to avoid that, we have to normalize it with the D inverse. So what is this exactly? If you look at this matrix multiplication only, then it is basically k equal to 1 to n D inverse ik summation j equal to 1 to n aij xj. This we have already discussed. This is extra. And you know that the degree matrix always has a diagonal elements present in it, and there are no elements in the lower half of the diagonal, and there are no elements in the upper half of the diagonal. So only the diagonal elements are present. So if that is the case, what we can do is we can reduce this expression to j equal to 1 to n d inverse I comma I, and the reason for that is that we have only diagonal elements present here, and this is ai comma j, and then we have x of j. So if you see this, it's very important expression, and what it is doing is it is normalizing the weights of aij. Why it is normalizing? It's normalizing because in the diagonal matrix of the D vector, if you look at the components of the diagonal matrix of this D vector, it contains how many neighbors we have attached to that particular node, which is, let us say, 1 here. So it's basically containing the number of neighbors which are connected to this particular node, which is 1. So if that is the case, let us say if you have a adjacency matrix in which the first node has this node connected, this node not connected, this node connected, this node connected, and this node is not connected, let us say. So we have only 3 neighbors here, right? So if these 3 neighbors are connected to this node 1, then the corresponding degree matrix will have the value of 3 at this point. for this particular row. So this 3 indicates that we have 3 neighbors which are adjacent to node 1. So when you expand this, what you will get is, let us say we are representing the weights of ai as w and that of xj as the feature vector. We have already explained that this particular expression will be w1 feature vector, w2 another feature vector, like this. But now it has to be divided by this capital W, and this capital W is basically the information of the nodes, like how many nodes are present. And by observing this and this matrix, the relation is that W is basically summation of Wi, where I run from 1 to n. So the weights that we are actually now multiplying with the feature matrix are normalized between 0 and 1. So it will not affect the scaling of the feature vectors. So this is the advantage of multiplying D inverse with this matrix. And what they have shown is even the D inverse to make it symmetric normalization, what they are doing is they are using D to the half A inverse AI D to the half then X. So this is another advanced version of this particular expression, which you know is, again you can expand it like this way and see that this is also somewhere doing a normalization only, as it is in case of this one. So this finishes off with the explanation of the vector representation of this particular matrix, how the aggregation and the transformation is done. So this finishes off the complete discussion about graph neural networks. So in the next lecture we will discuss the implementation of graph neural networks in TensorFlow. Thanks for watching my lecture. See you next time.